A woman was changing clothes by the roadside. Suddenly, a man appeared. The man quickly apologized to Annie and asked if she needed help. She hurriedly put on her clothes and said her car had broken down. After learning this, the man took off his clothes and prepared to fix the car. Soon the car was back to normal. To show her appreciation, Annie offered to give the man a ride, but the man said no need. Annie had to leave by herself, but she saw Nick's down and out figure in the rearview mirror. She couldn't bear to leave Nick behind, so she decided to give Nick a lift. But she didn't know that her kind gesture had led her into danger. After getting in the car, Nick asked about Annie's background. When he learned that Annie was alone, his true colors gradually emerged. He started molesting Annie, and Annie was terrified. She stopped the car and motioned for Nick to get out, but Nick suddenly grabbed her hand, took out a sharp dagger, and threatened her to keep driving to a hotel. Annie knew that once she entered that place, something terrible would happen, so she began to think about how to escape. At this time, she noticed that Nick wasn't wearing a seatbelt, so she came up with a plan. She prepared to make a sharp turn to throw the man out, but she didn't expect the man to fasten his seatbelt in advance. Annie had to take a risk. The car fell down the mountain. When Annie woke up, she found herself hanging upside down in the car, with her left leg tightly stuck under the seat. Through the rearview mirror, she saw Nick thrown out of the car, seeming to have no signs of life. By this time, the car had rolled over. Then she tried to call the police but found her phone was gone. Suddenly, she saw Nick move, and Annie was terrified. If Nick woke up, she couldn't resist at all. Just then, Annie saw the dagger. She tried her best to move her body, and finally got the dagger. Suddenly, Nick looked at Annie. Seeing Annie trapped in the car, Nick took pleasure in her misfortune. Then Nick left, leaving Annie shouting in despair. Soon it was night, and Annie's leg was still stuck and she couldn't get out. She tiredly put on her clothes and fell asleep. The next day, she was awakened by the sound of branches being stepped on, and quickly picked up the rearview mirror to observe the surroundings. Sure enough, Nick appeared with food and water, but he just wanted to show off in front of Annie. Annie's desire for food and water had reached the limit at this time, while Nick laughed at Annie beside her. Then he turned and left. At night, it suddenly rained heavily, and she quickly collected rainwater to temporarily ease the water problem. At this time, the flood became more and more turbulent, and began to slowly submerge the overturned car. The water level in the car kept rising, and finally the whole car was washed downstream. Can Annie survive? Follow me to continue Annie's story next time.